YouTube Niner Empire, welcome back. So there's reports going around that the 49ers have reportedly told Deebo Samuel they are not going to use him as a running back for next season. um, Obviously, with the 49ers canceling their final mini camp practice scheduled for Thursday of last week, and the OTA practices on deck for next week, that means Deebo is not going to have to worry about any potential fines. If he were to miss, camp or OTAs or something like that, as he waits for a new contract. But typically, really in all reality, the 49ers have about a month and a half to work out an extension with Deebo Samuel, according to NFL Network's Ian Rappaport. Now, Rappaport joined Pat McAfee's show earlier in the week and basically explained what he thinks it'll take to get a deal done for Deebo Samuel. And he basically said this, what the 49ers, I think, have done is try to say to him, we are not going to use you as a running back. Obviously, with the 49ers drafting Ty Davis-Price in the third round, obviously they have Elijah Mitchell, Trey Sermon, Jeff Wilson Jr. They have a lot of good players, running backs, coming back from last year. Now, Rappaport explained that he thinks they'd like to use him on the gadget plays, but not give it to him between the tackles, 15 plus times per game. Rappaport went on to say, that he thinks that is something that actually speaks louder than a new contract. Really, in all reality, I don't think the 49ers have publicly went up to him yet and said, hey, we're not going to use you as a running back, because I think they still want to. I think the 49ers still want to give the ball to Deebo behind the tackles, just not as much. I think in terms of like important third downs or something like that where it's very important, I think the 49ers will still use Deebo as a running back. I don't think they're going to completely stop giving him carries. But I definitely think they have probably told him that, look, we're not going to give you but 2-3 carries a game in moments that actually matter. And, I mean, here's the thing. I still have a hard time believing that Deebo doesn't want to play running back. There was never a time last season where he went up to somebody, he went up to one of the coaches and said, I don't want to do running back. Until I hear that out of Deebo's mouth is when I'll believe that. Now, I'm sure there's stuff that has been said behind closed doors that will never be out and will never be reported on. More private stuff, and maybe, really in all reality, maybe some of that stuff probably was said. Maybe Deebo did tell them he didn't want to play running back, but if he genuinely didn't, and if he had a problem with it, I feel like he would have told Kyle or Mike McDaniel or somebody on the staff that he didn't want to play running back. I don't think the 49ers would force him to play running back if he told them he really wasn't, for it. Because I genuinely think that's not the type of coaches we have, or we did have last season. I mean, basically have the same coaches. There's been, a little bit of shuffling with the coaching staff, but I genuinely think if Deebo went up to them, I'm sure it was the thing where Kyle Shanahan probably went up to Deebo at some point in the year and said, hey, we're going to use you at running back. Deebo could have easily shut that down and said no. Maybe Deebo said yes because he felt as if, for one, it was going to help the team, and for two, maybe he thought that if he plays running back or if he gets carries, he won't get a lot. And I think the 49ers maybe have, I don't know, in a sense took that for granted and just ran him because they ran him a lot. I believe he had over roughly around 60 carries last season. So it could be a situation like that, but there's stuff that's out there, I'm sure, that hasn't been reported and that will never be reported on. And that is what it is. But until Deebo publicly comes out and says something about him not wanting to play running back, I'm just not going to believe it, because I feel like if he didn't want to play running back, there would have been a point in time last season where he may have went up to Shanahan and said, look, I don't want to play running back. So I don't know. I mean, that could go both ways. I could also see maybe the 49ers knowing that he really wasn't high on running back, but did it anyway just for the better of the team. So there's so many factors that go into this. But either way, I mean, no matter who the 49ers brought in, Deebo still remains the best running back on the team, and he plays wide receiver. Um, I think the team's message is more about, longevity for Deebo Samuel's career. Um, I mean, it's almost like every season we have banged up running backs, and I'm sure Deebo understands that. He knows that, and he probably didn't want to be one of those guys. So, I mean, I definitely think that Deebo, it's being reported as well that Deebo wants to be paid as a receiver. Um, but he doesn't want it to be his only contract. We all see what happens to running backs. They get beat up. It's actually really smart forward thinking by Deebo on his part to, publicly come out and say, he doesn't want to play running back or something like that. It's common sense, and it's really on all reality self-awareness for Deebo to come out and say that to the 49ers if he genuinely did say that. But here's the thing. I think the more wide receivers that get paid before Deebo is better for Deebo. We've seen A.J. Brown get paid. We've seen Cooper Kupp get paid. I mean, there's so many wide receivers out there that have been paid big-time contracts. So I think for the most part, Deebo's price is going to continue to rise as more wide receivers are paid. So the 49ers want to work out and extend him. They better do it as soon as possible because there's going to be more wide receiver extensions, and Deebo's price tag will just continue to fluctuate and go up as these wide receivers are being paid. So we'll see what happens, but, I mean, I definitely think that it definitely could have been said that the 49ers have told Deebo they're not going to play him as running back, but I don't think that's the case. I genuinely think that they probably told him, look, we want to continue to keep you at running back. We're just not going to give you as many carries. I think it's something along the lines of that. Unless Deebo said, look, if you play me at running back, I'm not coming back. If you don't play me at running back, I have no problem being here. It could have been a situation like that too. Who am I to say that, though? Nobody really knows the full backstory behind all this Deebo Samuel stuff. I mean, there are reports about him not wanting to live in California and this and that. You really don't know what to believe, especially with so many new Twitter accounts out of just normal people throwing out reports and don't have any credible sources. I don't know, but Ian Rappaport says the 49ers have told Deebo they're not going to use him as a running back. Whether I believe that or not, Rappaport's a pretty well-known, reporter for the most part. But I don't think that they, like I said, who am I to say this, right? But I genuinely think, knowing the 49ers, knowing Deebo, I genuinely don't think the 49ers have told them that. It was probably more so a thing, like I said, where they told Deebo, look, we're not going to play you as a running back as much, but we definitely still want to put you in crucial third down situations and give you less than like 5 carries a game. It was probably something on the lines of that, but who knows? I mean, there's the truth will come out, but the fact of the matter is they have to pay Deebo, and they better do it soon because, like I said, all these premier wide receivers in the league are being paid, and that's only bumping Deebo's price tag up.